There are three main criterion for the selection committee to work with regarding the Plant City Photo Archives Heritage Award. First, someone who has had a long-standing impact of success in our area. Second, someone who has contributed to heritage and preservation efforts. And third, someone who is generally beloved by the greater Plant City community. I've had the privilege of conducting some biographical interviews of some great people as part of our Heritage Awards here at Plant City Photo Archives. And part of the joy for me has been trying to understand and learn from these people's lives. What is it that set them apart? What helped to create a D.E. Bailey, or a Jim Redmond, or a Robert Trinkle? And tonight's recipient. One of the things I've learned is that while they're all wonderful people, it is shocking how different they are from each other. They share greatness and accomplishment, but like fingerprints, they are undeniably unique. How does a life of accomplishment and influence begin? When someone is destined to be a leader, is it somehow stamped upon their life from the beginning? When someone is to wind up being honored in a place and time like this, is there some sign for us subtly there from their childhood? I think we all want to know. In December of 1928, Jesse and Annie Barker had to wait for the birth of their third child before moving from Lakeland to Plant City. They were gratified when, true to what was to be her lifelong habit of punctuality and responsibility, Betty June arrived right on time and raring to go. Sadly, both her parents died before she was 8, and she and her sister Jean and brother Robert were reared by an aunt and uncle, all of whom shared a bustling Haines Street household, including 2 young men taken in by the kind family during those Depression years. A natural musician, Betty has been playing the piano by ear since she was a tot. By the time she entered Bryan Elementary School at 5, she was already pestering the neighbors, asking to pick out their tunes on their pianos, because there wasn't one at home. Although she never had music lessons, she loves all kinds of instruments and claims they are really easy to master once you figure out the system. I guess that was true for her of the glockenspiel she played in the high school band, and the violin she says she was pretty good at until arthritis stiffened her fingers. Then there also was the harmonica. Big-hearted Betty has always been generous with her talent. During the war, she entertained the GIs at the USO, although her uncle insisted she come straight home, because those soldiers were much too old for her. While a student at Tomlin Junior High, she would slip out at noon on Lions Club meeting day to the hotel plant to play for the group. Then later she was pianist for 25 years with the Kiwanis Club. She can set a reverential mood on the piano or organ at church and has played for countless weddings and funerals. But look out when she throws off her shoes and lets go some boogie-woogie like she has at special occasions all over town. She can bring any party to life. Betty says she started work when she was 12 years old and grew up fast. One of her early jobs was in the box office at the Capitol Theater, for which she was paid the princely sum of 25 cents an hour. She was a DCT student in the high school, which meant she arrived an hour early every day and left at noon to go to her job as a clerk at TICO, where she worked 20 hours a week. Even so, she filled a big role in her school class, playing in the band, working on the staffs of the school paper, The Spokesman, and the annual, The Canucksaw. Elected cheerleader, she sparked enthusiasm at all games and is still the driving force in keeping all the class of 1946 active and in touch with each other. Betty is a spiritual person who taught Sunday school, sang in the choir for 50 years, and served on the board of her Methodist church. At 25, she was inspired during a revival there to further her education, and during her 4 years at Asbury College in Kentucky, she supported herself by cleaning a professor's home during the day and her dormitory at night. On weekends, she took a gig with the trombonist to go up in the mountains to play for the Salvation Army's street services. When Betty heard the call for student volunteers to relieve missionaries in foreign countries, she was off to Nashville for 6 weeks training, then to New York, where she had a crash course in conversational French at NYU, and was examined at Columbia Hospital as to her fitness for the rigors ahead. Little did she imagine what they might be. The crossing to Africa on a freight steamer took 16 days. Having been told to pack light, she was aghast that after the entire hold had been unloaded, there was no luggage to be found. Next time the airline misplaces your bag, just hope that you too don't have to wait 6 months for it to arrive. The mission in the Belgian Congo, now Zaire, was primitive and had a home for about 75 little girls who lived too far away to walk to the school. Their families paid tuition in the form of a chicken or other valuable asset. There was a leper colony a couple of miles away, and the girls went there daily, and each one helped care for a diseased child. While the students slept on concrete slabs and ate native stew, the missionaries lived it up, dining on hot cuisine of canned tuna and Spam, and amusing themselves at night playing Scrabble by candlelight. After 2 long years, Betty developed an infection and had to be flown out to the States for medical attention. After enough adventures for a lifetime, Betty was now ready to begin another career, 33 years of teaching here in Plant City at both the elementary and high school levels. She was asked to start the DCT program at Turkey Creek and was told it should take about 8 years. After 2 years, she had already accomplished and established 3 divisions. Later, when the new high school was built, she became the DCT coordinator there. In testament to her success, she was first named Outstanding Vocational Teacher of the County, then of the Florida Hall of Fame, and finally elected President of the Florida Vocational Association. Betty holds the distinction of being the first woman elected to a local governing body in Hillsborough County. She says several people had asked her to run for the city commission, to which she would quote, "It would be like my dog Brownie, who was always chasing cars. If I caught it, I wouldn't know what to do with it," end quote. But it turns out she did know what to do with it, for she was reelected twice, serving for 9 years, and later she was unanimously appointed as the interim commissioner when a vacancy occurred. Betty was listed in the 1970 edition of Outstanding Personalities of the South, but just continued piling up honors afterwards. She received the J.C. Good Government Award in 1972, was Woman of the Year in 1975, and was awarded Plant City Citizen of the Year in 1983. At the age of 54, this force in local politics and education called herself simply, quote, "an old maid school teacher," end quote. But Cupid had other plans, and Betty and Leroy Watkins were happily married for 23 years until his death in 2004. But Betty, of course, went right on serving whenever needed. She was a founding member of the EHHS and has always been a staunch supporter of history and heritage efforts in Plant City. Plant City Photo Archives was privileged to have her help. She was excited about the archive's plans for a veterans exhibit and personally solicited over 500 photographs and war stories from local servicemen and women. Her work with the USO and her work with the Selective Service Board for 6 years, her career with local schools together with her love of keeping people in touch, made her the perfect spearhead for that Plant City military service exhibit work. Betty says, "I love this town. I always have and I always will." Well, I can say with complete certainty, Betty, Plant City loves you back.